Hi folks, HR Funk here with installment number 2 in my video series on how not to damage a perfectly good firearm. Today I'm having a 2-for-1 special because I'm actually going to be covering 2 ill-advised practices that some shooters engage in. We're again going to be in the semi-automatic handgun universe, and let's start covering those 2 practices that you shouldn't engage in right now. The first thing I'll talk about is somewhat design specific. I say that because there are some designs of firearms. Now, this is not brand specific, but it's design specific. There are some designs that will allow shooters to do this. Most semi-automatic pistols, or with most semi-automatic pistols, this is a bad idea. And what I'm talking about, and just so you can see, I'm again using my training ammunition that won't fire, is the practice of dropping around into the chamber of your firearm and then releasing the slide to go home so that the extractor snaps over the rim of the cartridge. Now, if you do this, you might be asking yourself, why is this a bad idea? I've done it all the time and I've never had a problem with it. The reason is because it's very hard on your extractor. Let me show you a little close-up view of an extractor to try to help demonstrate what I'm talking about. Okay, here we have an extractor. And you can see it's nothing more than just a hook, basically. It has a pinhole in the middle that allows it to pivot, and a spring pushes against the rear of the extractor so that it holds it tight against the cartridge case. When the slide of your pistol cycles and forces a new round into the chamber, it picks up the cartridge and starts to push it forward, and the round actually slides up behind or underneath the extractor. The extractor doesn't snap over it every time it comes forward. The casing actually slides up behind it, and the extractor lines up with the extractor groove on the casing. When you drop a round into the chamber and allow that slide to slam forward, you can see the front of this, how it's shaped, and that collides with the rear of the cartridge case. Now, it will snap over, but that collision that occurs here, and you can see this is not a real huge piece of metal. Let's see if I can get it focused for you a little bit better. But that impact has the potential to break that hook off of your extractor. If that happens, you're going to start getting failures to extract, and really the only way to repair it is going to be to put a new extractor in your pistol. Okay, I'll try to demonstrate this with my pistol so you can see what I'm talking about. You'll see as the slide comes forward, and I have to turn it to try to get the light just right, the rear of the cartridge does slide up. Actually, it snapped out of the magazine that time. So let's try it again. If at first you don't succeed and all that. But the rear of the cartridge is going to slide up just like that, right behind the extractor hook. So the extractor does not snap over the cartridge when the slide goes forward. The cartridge slides up behind the extractor. When you fire, of course, the extractor pulls the fired casing out of the chamber. So if you're one of the folks that has a tendency to drop a round into the chamber and release the slide to go home, and you've suffered a broken extractor, it's not because the pistol you have is bad manufacturer, or they use cheap products or anything else. It's because you engaged in an inadvisable practice and you actually damaged the pistol yourself. Now again, there are some designs of firearms or some designs of handgun that will allow you to do this. But most semi-automatic handguns, or with most semi-automatic handguns, this is a bad idea. Okay, one last comment I'll make about this particular practice is for you folks who have been to training and an instructor has told you that in an event you have a failure to extract in the middle of a firefight and you have to get a cartridge out of the chamber, you should release the slide so that it goes forward, hooks onto the cartridge, and you pull it out of there to try to clear your chamber so you can get your pistol back up and running. If you're fighting for your life and you're in imminent danger of being seriously injured or killed, you're probably going to have to risk a broken extractor in order to try to get that pistol functioning again. But if that's not the case and you don't have to drop the slide on a chambered cartridge, don't do it. Okay, inadvisable practice number 2 that some people engage in to damage a perfectly good firearm, I think probably comes to us from Hollywood. Because how many times do you see the scene where the good guy at the end of the movie is getting ready for the big gunfight and he's standing there, he's got a look of grim determination on his face. He loads his magazine, cycles the slide so that it drives a cartridge home, pulls out the magazine, tops it off. Now with the slide forward, he puts the magazine in. Again, got to make sure you get that look of grim determination. And he winds up and blasts the magazine into the pistol or into the magazine well with that slide forward. Bad idea, and I've seen real shooters do this type of thing, I think really just because they're emulating what they see on TV or in the movies. What you'll do by slamming that magazine home like that is sooner or later you're going to bend the feed lips at the top of your magazine. Once that happens, you're going to start getting failures to feed. Again, that doesn't mean you've got a bad firearm. It doesn't mean that it's a piece of junk. What it means is you damaged your firearm, or at least your magazine, by engaging in that practice. You don't have to do that. When you seat a magazine, you can put it in there, seat it. If you're not sure, or you want to make sure that it's seated, just give a tug on the base plate. If it comes out, you know it's not seated. If it doesn't, you know it's locked in place. Don't wind up and blast that magazine home particularly when you've got the slide closed. So there you have it, folks. There's my inadvisable practices for today in episode number 2 of how not to break a perfectly good firearm. By the way, I got some good suggestions on the last video. Again, if you've seen people do things or you've encountered situations on the range or with other shooters and you've seen them do things that maybe they shouldn't do that could potentially damage their firearm, let me know. I actually had a couple of people mention the one about dropping the cartridge into the chamber and letting the slide go forward. It was one I was planning on doing anyway, but a couple of people had seen the same thing or mentioned the same thing. If you've seen anything, let me know. If it sounds good and it's something I think we can use in the videos, I'll do a video on that. But for now, that's my inadvisable practices of the day and how to avoid damaging a perfectly good firearm. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or comments, leave those below. And until next time, good shooting. Bye-bye.